Hi, good evening. This is really interesting and a little bit weird. Actually, electronic learning is something new for us exactly as it's new for you. I'm Rawi Al-Farra. I'll be with you on this course, Political Science Introduction to Political Science. Actually, let's ask ourselves three core questions before starting this entire course together. Why do you think do you need to learn anything about political science? Do you have any interest in this, or is it only because it's a course you have to finish? I think the answer of this question will be very important, and it will be a core element determining a lot of things we're going to do together in this course. What I think political science is something really interesting and weird because I do remember when we used to study, people used to ask us, what do you study? What is your major? When we used to tell them political science, they were like a little bit, political science, is that even a major in the university? Is it history? We say, no, it's not history, it's political science. So it's not about putting the right definition, it's about the perspective, how people look to political science, especially in the context in our Arab context, especially in Gaza. People have these stereotypes about political science. I think during this course, you and me are trying to see things from new perspective. Who I'm really interested to know more about you, your backgrounds, what you are really doing. Uh, that's why I want you to take these things as a journey of learning more than it's only a course. So the thing that I want to tell you, I think we're going to have a lot of fun things to do. We're going to have a Zoom meetings. If things went well, we're going to have Facebook groups. We can have live streams, extra, anything that could help me to know you more and could help you to know political science from new perspective. Okay, let's talk more about our course. Actually, in this course, it's not something advanced. It's more like an introduction. It's like whenever you meet someone to the first time, you need to know everything about him or her. So in this course, it's an introductory. You're gonna see politics from new perspective. As we said, we're gonna try to analyze and merge the theoretical backgrounds, history, and all the philosophy aspects with a very interesting, realistic implementation aspects. We're going to concentrate on core axis. We're going to talk about definitions. What is political behavior? The relation between politics and culture. The social context of political. Part two, we're going to talk about the political approaches. What kind of approaches like people used to talk or to use whenever they analyze any political phenomena or political issue. We're going to talk also about nature of political science. That's concerning with society, states, nations, or is there a new tendency in dealing with political science? Key concepts like power, legitimacy, democracy. Nowadays, there's new terms very interesting for all of us, like SDGs, like human security, etc. I think together we're going to raise or spotlight on core concepts in this course. Of course, in a course or introductory course about political science, definitely we're going to talk about political regimes, political ideologies, etc. I think we need also to talk about the transition in political science. It's not rigid as it used to be before. It's like a way to run and roll a lot of things. Let's talk also about key actors who are playing the core role in political science, like UN, interest groups, lobbies, political parties, etc. Uh, in this definition, can't you see that we didn't talk a lot about governments? Because in the large picture, governments are not the head anymore. They are not the core player anymore. And this is exactly what we are going to talk about. It's the new shape and structure of political science. Actually, uh, something very interesting. It's like a new players like media, like Facebook, social media, the blue world, a lot of new actors like people or normal students or anyone can search in this domain, maybe feel, uh, are you serious? Are you talking about Facebook and political science? Yes, we're talking about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and political science as new actors in any political regime. At the end of our course, we're going to have case studies. You and me are going to suggest 2 or 3 case studies to offer together, analyze, and reflect all the previous points. Okay, first of all, I think we need to have a core objective for our course. I need to say that the core objective is to understand the changing of meaning, nature, and the scope of political science as a starting point to have the new perspective to dealing with political science. And the first lesson, let's talk about more how the old definition opened the gate for us to see things in a different way. How this definition actually reflected the understanding about political science, how people used to see it, how philosophers used to see it, how these definitions changed by time. Okay, I think we have a lot of definitions, but here let's talk about the agreed definitions, or let's say the most agreed definitions across history. The first one, origin. Terms politics is derived from the Greek word polis, which means the city-state. According to Greek philosophers, politics was a subject which dealt with all activities, affairs of the city. It was connected directly to the states at that time. Their city-states were known as polis. City-states was an all-inclusive term as the ancient Greeks made no distinction between the states and the government. And this was a very dangerous definition because the entire vision of political science was concerning about governments. But this is not things anymore. Another definition here, it was like focusing more about how people see things going on inside the government. It's not only about the structure, it's also about how to run the policies. But again, it was concentrating only about the government. It's only about one aspect of the community. Gettel defined politics or political science as a study of a state and the past, present, and future, and of political institutions, political theories, etc. All the old thinkers used to see politics from only one perspective, that is represented by governments. Actually, a third definition could be like some political thinkers or scientists, like George Catlin, uh, accepted the view which states that politics deals with the state and government. At this point, they started to feel like there is a line between the state and the government. They need to explain uh, what's going on between those two items because a lot of phenomena, a lot of actions, activities um, are not really explained very well under the previous definitions. So they started to differentiate between the state and the government. But these definitions were also not enough to explain a lot of whatever is going on inside the governments. So a new tendency showed, and they said politics is the study of national institution. This new definition also reflects the changing and how philosophers and thinkers see things as going on, and they accepted, or they started to accept, that government is not everything. There is something is going on outside this, and whatever is that thing, it is not totally controlled by government. So they started to define the political as it's a descriptive study which brings together the description of national political institutions, history, ideological principles, their working or activities, the forces, and the influences by everything else, combining all these actors with the results and the impact on the states. I think in this point particularly we can see that there is a huge change in the explanation of political science. Even with all these changes, it is not enough only to see the formal side of the community. So the new approaches, the new classifications, the new definitions require to spotlight more on the informal structure, facts, and reality of community and politics. Because, as we said before, it wasn't enough to explain and solve a lot of things. If we're going only to spotlight on the formal aspect, a lot of things were out of control. So they started to say, like, let's talk about studying power. Okay, if not only government is controlling, let's see who else have the power, and let's say that political science is about studying power. So we have, like, one of the thinkers, Harold Laswell, said politics is the study of shaping and turing political powers. They started to escape from the idea of the stereotype of government towards the power. But again, it's not about power. And new issues raised, like conflicts resolutions, etc. And they started to say that no, let's focus more about how actors are solving their conflicts, how all of this will be very important to reflect and run the life inside these regimes. So we have a new definition. The modern emphasis in the study of politics is laid on disagreements and resolutions, or resolving the disagreements. It's not about power, it's about the ability to go over conflicts. Actually, one of the modern or the last tendencies was talking about, let's emphasize on what is going exactly on a real level. Let's talk about the actual facts. Let's study everything: forces, powers, formal, informal structure, all the dynamic actors that can participate in the political life, and all this formula can, like, shape the identity of political science. That's why they can say that political science is a systematic study of state, government, political institutions, power, influences, authority, process, forces, etc. Each factor, player, or element can participate, whether positively or negatively, in shaping the community and the development and the life in this community, can be part of the political science explanation. Okay, let's have a look on this chart that's gonna help us to see like how things went through history till we raised the final statement about political science. Like on the left side, we're going to see the track of traditional definitions, origin, study of states, others things how they start to differentiate between state government, etc. The new gate, the new era, started to talk about study of power, study of conflict resolution, correlation of many forces, and this is exactly what we are going to concentrate on. So the nature of political science, it's more a social science. It's a little bit different from chemistry, physics, algebra, whatever, because as we said, it's not something very rigid, it's more dynamic. Whenever we study political science, it's like evolution, a lot of things going on. It's like magic because you could never exactly know what's going on. It's always like surprising. Political science is a combination of a lot of various aspects. That makes to have one common definition for the entire concept a little bit hard. But again, let's say that it's a very systematic study of theory, institutions, forces, process, powers, actors, elements. Every single element or factor can shape the shape or the form of the community. We have to see how far the subject stands for the science itself. And all this led us to a very critical argument. Is it really a science or is it an art? Or it's like only an abstract study? We're going to answer all these questions together, but I want you to keep in your mind that it's not about the definition, it's about how you see things. Because whenever you see things in a different way, you're going to analyze it and name it in a different way. So, is it a science? Do you think it's really a science? Who think political science is a science, actually? Even old thinkers had this argument, and some of them didn't believe that political science could be really a science. And they depended on this argument on various elements. Number one, they said disagreement and definition, terminology, methods, etc., maybe create this conflict about it's not a real science. Um, the dynamic form or the nature of politics makes it a little bit not be able to be studied as normal sciences, and it's not actually the normal form of a science. They said like it's not an applied science. It's not like experiments like we can do with, for example, chemistry, physics. It's not a formula in math. Um, Another actually factor they used to say that political or politics is not science. Principles of political science are not precise. They are not very accurate. There is no accurate line between outcomes, inputs, and outputs. For example, there is no serious formula that tell us if I'm going to have a dictator state, people will obey, or if I will have a democratic regime, people will be very happy. There is no such formula, which makes things very weird for thinkers to understand. The third point that thinkers used as a defense for their idea that politics is not a science, they said that we're using human beings as the core element of studying, and human beings are not something you can really make a study over. Human beings, you cannot control them, you cannot control human behavior, you cannot really understand or predict human. There's no common logic or common understanding. It's not like anatomy. You are not like dealing with lungs or, for example, kidney. You are dealing with the behavior and minds. And actually it's very interesting that no one can really read other minds or really know how others like understand things. And this is actually a little bit confusing, because all over the years, previous years, people, doctors, thinkers, philosophers were trying to analyze human being minds, especially women's, and actually they failed. Okay, the fourth element, it's like the limited experimentation. It's not something you can put the human mind under the microscope or something and you can analyze. Number five, and the most interesting and important element, actually, the lack of objectivity. All of us are human beings. We could never ever be totally 100% objective towards anything, neither towards the government, states, ideology, community, nation, etc. Each of us is a little bit affiliated to certain maybe community, certain idea. We get attached so easily with things. There's another group of thinkers were saying no, actually politics can be a science, and they used to defend this idea that science shouldn't be like that abstract. It's not only applied science. We have another kind of sciences. So they said any track that produce language, produce knowledge, and produce a new era, new common era of information, knowledge, and facts, it could be a science. So they agreed that once politics is offering us knowledge about issues, it could be science. Defending the idea of experiments, they said like maybe politics is not completely ruled out. Government itself, the track of like the system can be followed, tracked, and experienced under certain rules and tools. And this is helping in measuring at least the attitudes and the track of the regimes. So they agreed that it's not controlled 100%, but they said like with certain tools we can follow major the idea of development of the regimes, political science. Actually, the confusion between whether it's science or not depends again on the background, the cultural, the economic, the affiliation of these thinkers, and the environment, the knowledge they gained. Um, Even the definition of science nowadays is changed. We have a new kind of sciences. Another argument we're going to face whenever we're going to talk about science, political science, is politics an art? Like, is it an art? Because nowadays we're going to see terms like art of decision making, art of problem solving, art of communication. So even the idea of art itself is changing. thinkers who defend the idea of politics as art reflected that it's like using certain tools to reflect with smartness certain attitudes. Again, because we are dealing with human beings, it's not all about science, it's not applied science. You need to have this sense, this smartness to measure, react, and build. So they depend on this idea to say that politics, in a way, it's an art to lead, um, rule, and produce knowledge. Okay, let's see the chart where we can like see the entire picture together. People who say whether it's science or not, we have like on the left of the screen the disagreement about, or the elements they used for this agreement, talking about the definition, like of preciseness, dealing with the human beings, limited experiments, etc., etc. People who said it's no, it is a social, it is, sorry, a science. They said it's a social science. It's possible to implement experiments. It's empirical studies, actually. People who said it's an art, the application of political theory and philosophy on human beings and using smartness. Other, or a third part, they were saying that political science is politics. It's only part of the study of political science and concentrating on one particular aspect. Okay, after talking about the definitions and how the perspective of dealing with political science through history, let's talk a little bit about the scope of political science. Whatever was the definition, let's see what kind of elements does this science focus on, or at, at, at what level, let's say, political science stop in dealing with things, and to which the extreme we can use political science to analyze, understand, and reflect knowledge and facts. Actually, we're going to concentrate on certain axes as the core scope of political science, and we're going to concentrate on these uh, points or axes during our course together. The first element, political science, is the study of political theories. We're going to concentrate on the theories that try to analyze the political life, actors, powers, etc., as we said. The second axe, or the second track, political institutions, including government, NGO, INGO, civil community, etc. Political parties and pressure groups, also a new, very important, essential axe to analyze and talk about. Um, a fourth element actually is the track of international relations, because this is very important nowadays. The idea of political science is totally emerged with the concept of international relations. The boundaries between countries and regimes is no more the same. The fourth axe, we're going to talk about the relation between government and civil society, and whether it's like a supportive, is it a parallel, is it uh, an opposite, what kind of relation does a government have with the civil society. The last point we're going, or the last element we're going to concentrate is the studying of power, authorities, influences, political activities, political processes, because actually it's no more clear who is affecting whom. Is it the government affecting community? Is it the community affecting the government? Is it social media affecting both? Is it like something else? Is it really kind of external powers affecting everything. Understanding the role of each player will give us a much clearer uh, idea about political science. Okay, these are actually the core scope of the course, and the core scope actually of the new definition of political science. As we said, theories, institutions, political parties, pressure groups, international relations, the relation between governments and civil society, studying power, authority, influences, etc. We're going to concentrate more and more about the role of the player. By this, we reached to the end of our first lesson together. I know it's not easy to receive information during electronic learning. To me, this is also not easy, but I think this is a way to be always together. So please be safe. Things is not about what you see, it's always about what you want to see. Till I will see you. Have a good time.
اكسبورت طبعا، تخزن الفيديو على الديسكتوب، ومن هناك تقدر انه